we had a guy who came to us. He had a tumor in his larynx. It had grown so large that it was hard to breathe, to swallow, to talk. They wanted to do an emergency tracheotomy. He was not interested in that. His friend had heard me speak in Manhattan at a raw vegan restaurant. You ever go to Bonobos? He heard me speak at a restaurant there, and said, "Hey, call this guy." So he contacts me, and I said to him, "Look, I've never had anybody with this particular tumor. We've had a lot of people heal from cancer. If it's not fast growing, if waiting another month and a half isn't going to put you in danger, if it's growing super fast, you might not want to wait. But if it's not super fast growing, there's no danger in waiting. Give it a try. You got nothing to lose. Better to avoid." He didn't want to do the surgery anyway, right? He came to me. He fasted for 30 days. When he got home, his son, who's a famous movie director, rushed him to the hospital. First of all, the friend who told him about me, we were still in the U.S. We were in Maryland at the time. So his friend picked him up in Manhattan, drove him down to Maryland, dropped him off, and then came back and picked him up and brought him back. When he brought him home and the son was waiting at his father's apartment, knocked his friend down, punched him, blamed his friend. It's like, your dad's an adult. He made his own choices. Okay? His son then rushed his father to the hospital where there was a surgeon standing by. They rush him into the OR. They can't find a tumor. Well, it's gone. He fasted 30 days. He turned 91 while fasting with me.
Wow.
Okay? If you're still alive, and I think most of you are, your body can still heal. It's still healing every day.
Yeah.
Just the question is how efficiently, how effectively does that happen? It's a lot more efficient and a lot more effective with fasting. Realized medicine wasn't helping me, walked away from medicine. At that point, I'm still sick and I don't know what to do. All I knew was Western medicine. I had begun studying nutrition at 14. And what happened was, I grew 10 inches that year, didn't gain a pound. I looked like a stick with a nose. And hormones are kicking in. I'm wanting the girls to find me attractive. I look like a stick with a nose. And so I thought maybe if I start learning about nutrition and exercising, I could build some muscle mass. I started studying nutrition. So now at 26, I'm thinking maybe I need to go back to nutrition. I did that. I realized I was doing everything conventional nutrition said I should be doing. Now, I don't know if you're aware of this, but conventional nutrition programs are sponsored by Big Pharma.
Oh my God.
Big Pharma wants us to be healthy. What do you think? Of course not. They don't make any money on healthy people. Okay? Nutrition programs are pretty much useless. So I realized that wasn't it. Now it occurred to me that it had to be important what we ate. It had to be important, just not what they were telling us. What occurred to me was there's lots of species. It turns out they're estimating between 25 and 30 million animal species. Every single one of them has a species-specific diet, one diet for every member of the species. We're no different. I started thinking, okay, if I can figure out what the natural diet is for the human body, maybe that will bring me back my health. And sure enough, that's what I did. You may have noticed this. How many of you have seen like documentaries on chimps or bonobos? Anyone seen any of those? Not very much.
Not really.
Okay, gorillas, anything?
Yes.
Okay, you might have noticed that it's pretty rare that they'll go into the forest and gather mangoes and find a couple pineapples and get a handful of Suriname cherries and go home and make a fruit salad. Okay, they don't do that, right? They eat one thing at a time. They don't cook. I mean, it's very hard to get ovens in the jungle, so they just eat everything raw. That was it. I gave up cooked food, started thinking about what actually belongs in our body, what we would be eating if we lived in our natural habitat. Natural habitat is not Phoenix, it's not LA, or definitely not Boston. Where could we be on the planet in our birthday costumes 365 days a year? The tropics is the only place. We're tropical animals where more than half the trees make some kind of fruit. Okay? Our systems are virtually identical to those of chimps and bonobos who live on a fruit-based diet. So I adopted a fruit-based diet way back then. It's been a few years. In fact, let me back up because I'm getting ahead of myself. Actually, at 26, I did not do that. What I did was I started thinking about what's natural, and what I realized first was that animal products and processed foods were not natural for our bodies. Because if you look at I was studying physiology and anatomy. If you look at the animals that eat animals, right? How many of you know people eating a carnivore diet? Okay, you can tell them they're destroying themselves. They feel better now. And when people say, I feel better, I'm like, well, you can take heroin and feel better. Okay, that should not be the only objective. You have to be looking at the long-term consequences. Carnivores, Rebecca, do you mind if I ask how much you weigh?
Less than 100.
How much?
Less than 100.
Less than 100. That's why I picked on you. Okay. A tiger, a Bengal tiger, weighs 500 pounds, more than 5 times your size. Your digestive tract is more than 2.5 times longer than the tiger's, which means about 13 times longer proportionately. If you were its size, your digestive tract would be 13 times longer than that animal's. Okay? There's a reason for that. Animals that eat animals have very short, smooth, straight digestive tracts, completely different from ours. All right? So, you can use that. I mean, not that people who have these ideas are going to listen to you. They're not. Trust me. Unfortunately, they're not open to hearing it. But, it became obvious to me we're not meant to eat animal products. Processed foods aren't natural to any species. In fact, are one of the primary reasons why the United States enjoys something like the 47th best health in the world, right? One of the wealthiest countries in the world, outspends every other nation 3 or 4 to 1 per capita on healthcare, and still enjoys the 47th best health in the world. It's a disaster. Okay. Now, first of all, the healthcare system is a joke. It's not a healthcare system. It's a symptom suppression system. That's all it does. And again, you want to be clear, they have no interest in doing anything but that. They don't want to make you healthy. They want you to be a long-term customer. Okay, it's a customer retention program, and it works very well. They know exactly what they're doing. They're not stupid. Who's stupid? Or anyone who says, "Yeah, I'm going to listen to my doctor." I wouldn't do that.
I don't.
Eventually, I'm constantly thinking to myself, I want to figure out what's optimal for my body, what's natural for my body. And I was at a health conference. It was actually 4 years later. I'm walking down the street, down the sidewalk between 2 buildings, going to a lecture, and I overhear 2 words of a conversation. I'm thinking now for like 5 years, what's optimal for my body? And over here, one person say to the other person, raw food. And I'm like, it was like this giant light bulb moment. Oh yeah, in nature, animals don't cook their food. Cooking food is not natural. Now, is cooking food problematic? Well, it turns out, yeah, more than just a little bit. When we cook food, we destroy nutrients. Okay, we destroy the nutrients. Things like vitamin C. Vitamin C is one of the most unstable nutrients. It's an essential nutrient for us. That means we have to consume it. But if you're consuming it in the form of orange juice, most of you are too young. Have you been in the United States for a long time? 30 years. Not long enough. Not long enough to remember this. You might remember this. You might be a little too young. You probably remember this, Steve. Anita Bryant.
Oh, of course.
Anita Bryant was a former Miss America.
Yeah.
I think late 50s, early 60s Miss America. She became the spokesperson for Minute Maid orange juice. And back in the mid 60s, for about a year, they constantly ran these commercials on TV with this beautiful young woman talking about how she had this glass of orange juice. A day without orange juice is like a day without sunshine. People drink orange juice for vitamin C. How much vitamin C from the plant do you think was in that orange juice? From the oranges. Jonas, how you doing?
Great.
Good to see you. Hi there. How much vitamin C? You can sit right here if you like.
Hey, we got
How much?
room, Jonas?
Come on.
Hi.
How much vitamins? Anybody?
Oh,
We'll let them guess up.
50%.
50%. Anybody else want to guess something? The question is, how much vitamin C from the orange is in the bottled, pasteurized orange juice?
25?
0%. 0%. Give or take 0. To be scientific, we have to say plus or minus 0. Okay, it's 0. No, it's like 0.
Oh my God.
What if
Okay.
they homogenize it and add it back in?
Now, what they're adding back, orange juice contains vitamin C, made in a factory.
Yep.
It's not the stuff from the plant. It's not what your body wants. Okay.
Organic minerals, yeah.
Exactly. It's inorganic minerals. This is stuff you don't want to be consuming. So
The cake's not good.
this and not only are you destroying nutrients by cooking food,
Yeah.
you're also creating toxic compounds. You're creating toxic compounds. Proteins, fats, carbohydrates, if you cook them, you're actually creating toxins that didn't belong there. Anybody here ever study to be a chef? Anybody go to chef school? If you look at a course catalog, when you go home, you can look at Culinary Institute of America, one of the largest culinary schools in the United States in New York City. CIA, every culinary school has a series of courses called food chemistry. Food chemistry 101, food chemistry 102. Why? What's food chemistry? When you heat food to high enough temperature, you're creating chemical reactions. You're creating toxic compounds that did not exist before. So I was very fortunate. I was off to Stockholm to speak there for the first time. This was 22 or 23 years ago. It's my first. I've now spoken in Sweden many times, but the first time there, a month before I'm taking off for Sweden, there's a study published from a university in Stockholm. They wanted to figure out what the increased risk of cancer was for people in Stockholm, Sweden, who were working in this industrial process with a carcinogenic compound called acrylamide. Acrylamide, like acrylic, it's a form of plastic, and these people in this industrial process are handling this compound, and it made sense. If you're working with it every day, you probably know that migrant workers, which used to be here when they were allowed to come across the border, in Arizona and California, places like that, would have much higher rates of certain cancers because they're getting sprayed with pesticides.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're handling this compound, you'd have higher rates of cancer. Well, they did the research to figure out what the increased risk of cancer was. There was no increased incidence of cancer for people working with this, and that didn't make any sense. Instead of saying, okay, all's good, they said, that doesn't make any sense. Why is that? What they figured out was the average person in Sweden was eating acrylamide several times a day. Now, who would eat acrylamide?
It's on all the browning of the foods.
Anybody who's ever eaten cooked carbohydrates. Bread contains a lot. Coffee, you roast the coffee beans, you're creating acrylamide.
2002 study, the acrylamide studies.
2002. Okay, this was 23 years ago. That's when I went to Stockholm for the first time. So I'm standing in Stockholm on the stage telling people in Sweden that no one had heard of this. I'm like, this happened right here. Okay, this stuff is toxic to you, and your body reacts to it. In fact, any cooked food, not just cooked carbohydrates, we eat any cooked food, the body responds with something called digestive leukocytosis. Okay, who knows what a leukocyte is?
Like blood cells.
White blood cells. Your body creates white blood cells in order to help the body recover from any injury. So you cut yourself, you scrape yourself, you bruise yourself, whatever it is, your body makes white blood cells in the bone marrow, sends them to the site of injury. And there's a process that's called leukocytosis. Okay? There's a process called digestive leukocytosis. Now, doctors and scientists have always been clear, leukocytosis only happens in the event of an injury, which is another way of saying your virtually infinitely intelligent body is too smart to waste its energy creating and marshaling leukocytes when there's no need for them. It only does that when they're necessary. But what they would say is digestive leukocytosis, which happens when people eat food, that happens for no reason.
Protective.
Think about this. For no reason. Would your body do this for no reason? Use all this energy?
I wouldn't do anything for no reason.
Of course not. Exactly right. So Paul Kuchikov, a Nobel Prize nominated scientist 100 plus years ago, said, that's absurd. This makes no sense. And so he performed a series of studies that demonstrated that digestive leukocytosis only happens in the presence of cooked food. Okay, when we eat only raw, there is no digestive leukocytosis. In other words, when you eat cooked food, your body is reacting as if it's been poisoned, but only because it has. Okay, sorry. That's what's going on. Okay, so now I changed my diet, all's well, but I'm still thinking, I want to do more. What else can I do? So I noticed that animals in nature, as I'm studying animals, I'm realizing every species in nature does the same thing. How many of you are dog lovers? Do you have a dog? Have you had a dog? Okay. Have you ever had your dog get really sick? What did it do?
Hide.
Hide. Lays down, refuses to eat, and doesn't move. Just stays there. Okay? Every species on the planet instinctively loses its appetite in the face of acute crises. Acute crises, acute sickness. Okay? Right? The body is smart. It says, no, processing food takes more than half the body's energy. So if the body needs to heal, if it needs to detoxify, doesn't want food. Now, people say to me, yeah, but I'm still hungry. Right, because this happens naturally in acute crises. It doesn't happen with chronic disease. And what most people are doing is creating chronic disease every single day. I'm embarrassed to tell you this because I've been focused on health now for 50 years. I'm 64, I'll be 65 soon. I started when I was 14. Okay?
I'm turning 50 this year.
It's been 50 years. It only occurred to me about 10, 12 years ago, maybe a little longer. We create chronic disease every time we suppress symptoms, right? You have an issue, whatever it is, you take medicine, you take any kind of medication. Do drugs heal you? What do you think? Of course not. They're poisonous substances. All they do is they suppress symptoms. Symptoms. People say to me all the time, Loren, I don't know if I was sick or if it was a healing crisis. My response is, it's always a healing crisis. A cold is a healing crisis. A flu is a healing crisis. COVID was a flu and a healing crisis. That's all it was. That's all anything ever is. It's your body attempting to cleanse and heal. If we suppress the symptoms, we prevent the body from being able to cleanse or heal. We feel better, but are we better? No. We still have the toxins the body was trying to get rid of, and now we've added more in, and we've weakened the body's immune function. That's what medicine does for us. It seems stupid until you think of it from the perspective of pharma, who wants us to be sick. And then it's brilliant. It's a brilliant strategy. Okay, this is what works best. So I realized it's not just dogs that do this. Virtually every species instinctively stops eating. And I said, okay, I'm going to start fasting. And I actually came across a book called Rational Fasting by Professor Arnold Ehret. And Ehret was talking about people going weeks without food. And I thought, okay, I mean, it resonated with me, like it made sense, but it also seemed really radical, pretty crazy. And so I thought, I'm going to work up to this. Now, I had some familiarity with fasting. I'm Jewish, but only on my parents' side. Not religious at all, never interested in that. So I'd fasted one day every year, right? I knew I could do that. I thought, I'll try 2 days, and I'm going to park myself close to the refrigerator just in case. Because I really didn't know if I could survive 2 days without food. I mean, I think most people think if they skip lunch, they might die. Right? Okay, you know, the truth is, I mean, imagine what a ridiculous design that would be. Because in nature, what happens? In nature, there are fires and floods and droughts and freezes if you're in the wrong climate, and there may not be food available. Animals sometimes have to go a long time between meals. Okay, but most people really believe they have to eat, right? You're gonna drive to LA. How far is that? You told me 5 hours to San Diego. Okay, LA is what, 4.5 hours? I better bring some food, because what if I get a flat tire? I might die on the highway, right? No, it doesn't work that way. But that's what people think.
Healing starts at 21 days.
So I began fasting, and amazing things happened. Amazing things shifted for me. I fasted a lot more than I should have. I didn't know what I was doing because my teachers were dead. I found another dead guy who had a book. Herbert Shelton. Great stuff, but I couldn't ask him questions. I was on my own. And this may be hard. How old are you?
Gonna be 35.
Okay, all right. So maybe you can understand, but there was no internet back then. Crazy, right? Crazy. We had a search engine. It was called the Yellow Pages. It was a giant phone book. You look under fasting, you know what it said? Nothing. There was nothing there. There was no fasting. I was on my own. And so I made a lot of mistakes. I worked it out over time. I did a lot of fasting. I have now fasted more than 3.5 years of my life cumulatively. Yeah. And amazing things were happening for me. And I was in the commercial real estate business. I have a background in finance. I got into brokering financing on commercial real estate projects. And I figured I'm going to make a lot of money. I'm going to retire and figure out what I want to do with my life afterwards. And by the time I was 30, 32, somewhere in there, I thought, you know what? I'm helping wealthy, excuse my French here, assholes often get richer. I don't need to do this. I had a lot of people asking me for help because what happened was people who hadn't seen me in a little while, I'd been sick for 3 years, really dragging myself around for 3 years. And then everything shifted for me. And I'd run into people and they'd say, oh my God, you look amazing. What did you do? After I talked about the plastic surgery and Botox, I didn't do any of that. I told them what I did, and they said, can you help me? Can you help my parent? Can you help my kid, my partner? And I thought, you know what? I'm going to be a health coach. And that's what I did. After a few years, my coaching clients knew that I was fasting myself. I was still fasting a lot. In the early, first 8 years, I fasted a lot. And they kept asking me to guide them through the process. I didn't really feel like I was qualified. But ultimately, I looked around. By then, I knew there were places you could go. But I looked at them and I thought, I wouldn't want to spend a month in a place like this. They were super clinical, not a place I'd want to be. And I thought, I'm going to create the best fasting center in the world. And that's what I did. We started off outside of Washington, D.C. in a big house in Bethesda. Within a couple of years, we had outgrown the space. We had space there for 9 guests. We outgrew it. We moved to a much bigger place on 17 acres on top of a mountain in Western Maryland. I renovated the place so that I could take up to 18 guests there. But my goal already was Central America. Because remember, I'm living on a fruit-based diet in Maryland, beautiful place, but we had cold, snowy winters, and I'm thinking, first of all, I don't like wearing long pants, I don't like wearing shoes, and I want to be in a place where I can be in the water and pick fruit off the trees every day of the year. And so I had my sights set on Central America. I finally made the move 22 and a half years ago, and for the last 29 years until mid-February, I ran the world's largest dedicated water-only fasting center. I've now guided more than 12,000 people from 156 countries through water-only fasts, averaging 26 days. I'm glad you're sitting down.
I was going to ask how long is the fast?
I was going to tell you, but then I told you. So no, I don't need to tell you. Right? 26 days sounds crazy to most people, okay? But I can tell you, I've had many people who were very lean go as long as 42 days and more when they had very little to start with. You take someone who's very lean, and what happens is they lose weight much more slowly because the body's intelligent. And so it reduces metabolism so they can go much longer. Someone who's very heavy, and I'll tell you something really fascinating. A few years ago, I had 2 people, I would have 32 people fasting, on average, fasting at the same time at my center in Costa Rica, and it was spectacular. There was a guy fasting with me for the first time. His first fast was 45 days. Now, he was 6'1", 6'2", 340 pounds when he started. There was a woman fasting with me for the 3rd time. She's a doctor, actually. She is 5'6", and she weighed 85 pounds when she started. So he was literally 4 times her size. Okay? 4 times her size. We're measuring body fat, muscle mass, water in the body every day, and he's losing 2 to 3 pounds a day. She's losing 1 to 3% of a pound of fat. This is a fat. She's losing 1 to 3% of a pound of fat per day. He's literally losing 100 times more body fat each day than she is. Okay? This is what happens when someone's very large, they lose weight very quickly. When they're fasting, when someone's very lean, they lose weight very slowly. as long as it's done properly, perfectly safe for both people. And I've seen amazing things happen. So let me give you a few examples. Hypertension, we talked earlier about before some of you arrived. 71, according to recent statistics, 71% of Americans have hypertension. It's crazy, amazing, like insane. 71% of Americans, high blood pressure. I've worked with more than 1,500 people who self-identified as being hypertensive, like they've been diagnosed with hypertension. 100% of those people reduced their blood pressure significantly. All but 3 of them in their 70s completed the process with their blood pressure still above 120 by 5 or 6 points. But these are people who started with their blood pressure 175, 180. Okay? Everybody else completed the process with blood pressure below 120 with no need for medication. Okay, this is all unmedicated. Type 2 diabetes, more than 200 clients, 100% off medications, perfectly healthy blood sugar. Okay, our bodies are meant to heal themselves. In fact, while everybody's looking for magic bullets, years ago, I'm walking down the street with my girlfriend at the time, Washington, D.C. Beautiful, beautiful spring day, blue skies, sunshine, flowers, the perfume of flowers in the air. We're walking down the sidewalk holding hands. We pass a middle-aged woman, and a moment later we hear, "Excuse me." We both look over our shoulders, and she's turned around and is facing us. So we turn around and walk back to her. And I said, can we help you? I thought maybe she was lost or something, needed directions. She said, "Excuse me, I've never seen 2 people who look as healthy as you two. What do you do?" And we proceeded to talk to her about fasting and the raw vegan fruitarian diet. And she said, "Okay, thank you," and hurried off as quickly as she could. I'm sure she was hoping we were going to tell her what magic supplement we were using, which powder, which juice. Everyone wants a magic bullet. They don't want to do the work. They don't want to change anything. They want the easiest possible way to get where they want to go. And I understand it's human nature.
Yeah.
There are no magic bullets. There are no easy tricks. Okay? The way we get health, it's actually the simplest thing in the world. Now, everyone here realizes, I hope, that simple and easy are 2 different things. Okay? Simplest thing in the world. Here's what you do. You fast long enough to get the garbage out of your body. I'm going to say more about that in a minute. Okay? You give your body the chance to heal everything, to detoxify as much as it needs to, and then you meet all of its needs the way that nature intended for this organism. Because we can eat whatever we want. You can go to a grocery store where you've got more than 50,000 items, probably 50 or 60 of which are actually food that belongs in the body. Okay, all the rest, not so much. Not so much. This is the key. Now, when I talk about getting rid of the garbage, again, there's a natural diet for every species, and every species on the planet eats a high water content diet, right? I said this, it might have been Facebook, somewhere in a conversation, I don't remember, a few years ago, and someone said, that's not true. The desert crab, you probably have them here in Arizona, the desert crab eats only dry seeds. And I thought, well, that's crazy because water's life, how do they survive? So I did some research. The person was right, the desert crab eats only seeds. Guess how the crab determines which seeds to eat and which ones not to eat? Based on water content. They eat the highest water content seeds they can find. Okay, water is absolutely necessary for life. Okay, so every species eats a high water content diet, but not all humans do that. How many of you here, I'm guessing it's 100%, have eaten corn chips? Has anyone here not had corn chips? You've had corn chips? Yeah. You look like the kind of guy that would have had corn chips. Everybody's had corn chips.
I work with a GMO. I get E. coli immunity.
I think it's all your fault, Jonas.
Yeah, I know, it is.
I'm pretty sure it's all Jonas's fault.
I was
Yeah.
at George Washington Carver High School in '91.
If you ever have any problems, it's probably Jonas's fault. Just get that out on the tables now.
One question?
Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah. And hold on, questions for now. So, I'm going to ask you a question. Okay. How much water do you think corn chips have? Negative water?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's possible. They're actually 3% water. And if that sounds like a lot, first of all, if something was completely dry, as soon as you expose it to the air, which contains some moisture, it would absorb some moisture. So it's impossible for something to be completely dry unless it's sealed. And if that sounds crazy, white bread Has everyone eaten white bread?
No.
White bread is 50% water.
Jeez.
3% is pretty low. Okay? Now here's the question. You eat those corn chips. You ate those corn chips. Did they come back out of your body as dry as they went in? You better hope not.
Oh God.
Could you imagine? Okay? You better hope not. Constipated would be the best thing that could happen. If they're exiting your body, you're in trouble. Okay? If they're stuck in there, you're better off. All right? So what happens? They go in 3% water. Stool on average is 75% water. Where's the water come from? It's taking it from your body. Okay? This is why I've measured well over 8,000 people. Guess what percentage, guess how many of those people are within, let's say, 8%, 10% of actually being well hydrated.
Maybe 2.
There have been maybe 3 people within 10% out of well over 8,000. Everybody else is very dehydrated. Some people are seriously dehydrated, severely dehydrated. Okay? Typically what happens is the older we get, the more dehydrated we are. And the reason for that is because the way most people eat, they're becoming more dehydrated every day. Okay? Dried foods, you asked about dried fruit earlier. What is dried fruit going to do? It's going to take water from your body. What do dehydrated foods do? They take water from your body. Salt takes water from your cells to protect you because it's toxic to you. Okay, don't eat salt. I gave up salt well over 40 years ago. Don't eat it. Peppers, spices dehydrate you. Vinegar, alcohol, sodas, coffee, and tea, these are all diuretics. They make you pee out water. You're becoming more dehydrated. That's what goes on. Now, here's the tough one. Sorry. For all of you, this is a beautiful place, but you know what? Living in this climate, it's a lot harder to stay hydrated because the air is so dry, right? We're tropical animals. We're meant to be in wet tropics. When you live in a desert climate, your body sweats to cool down. You're losing water, right? The sweat evaporates, cools the skin down. That's why we sweat. That's the primary reason for sweating. But it's harder to be hydrated living in the desert than it is living in a humid place. Just something to be aware of. It doesn't mean you can't live here. It means you want to be even more careful about what you're doing. All right? Now let's back up. All the things, so every species has a natural diet. Let me start there. Every species has a natural diet. That natural diet for every species is high water content foods. For our bodies, in order to get through this long term, in fact, from the bottom of the stomach, most people think their stomach is down here, right? Your colon runs across the middle of your belly. Your stomach is actually up here, okay? Ileocecal valve is where the small intestine stops, large intestine starts. From here to here, which is about, 12 inches on my torso, there's roughly 22 feet of small intestine. Your large intestine, the colon, is only about as long as your height. So my colon is about 6 feet long. My small intestine is 22 feet long. Okay? It's 1/3 the diameter. Large intestine is 1.5 inches. The small intestine is only 1/2 inch in diameter. It's sacculated like a vacuum cleaner hose. Now that happens to increase the surface area. And if you want to know how effective that is, think of it this way. Actually, I forget exactly the numbers now, but I'll try to ballpark it for you. If we have 22 feet by 1/2 inch, that would be 11 square feet, right? 11 square feet of surface area. The actual surface area of your small intestine is well over that of a tennis court. If you were to take it all unfolded, it's enormous. That allows us to absorb as many nutrients as possible, okay? But in order to get through this small intestine, we need the fiber. Anybody ever make handmade paper? Everyone familiar with handmade paper? You ever see cards, note paper that's handmade paper? You might see seeds in it sometimes, and it's cool things, right? How do they make that? Anyone know? You take a bunch of paper, you tear it up, or you put it in a blender, you mix it up with an egg beater, and then you take it with water, and you spread it out over a screen and let it dry. Now you had 1 million tiny pieces of paper after it came through the blender. How does it all stick together? Anyone? Well, the water dries. Why does it still stick together? The fibers hold it together. Exactly. The fibers hold it together. We're meant to eat foods, only to eat foods high in water and fiber. When we eat things that don't have any fiber, it's very hard to get them through this very long, torturous, so I mean, imagine 22 feet in that space, it's all twists and turns. Without the fiber to pull it all through, we have trouble eliminating everything. This is why there's old hard waste, mucoid plaque, stuck in your small intestine. Now, some people say it doesn't exist. Those people haven't fasted long enough or properly. Let me tell you just one, and I'm going to start off and tell you, this is an extreme case, but it proves the point, okay? Had a young woman fast with me a couple years ago. She was 27 years old. She was 5'7" and weighed 99.5 pounds. So she was pretty lean, not super lean. I mean, I had a woman fast with me at 5'7", 88 pounds. They both for 21 days. This woman did 30 days, starting at 99.5 pounds. She lost 22 pounds, which isn't very much for that length of a fast. Most people would lose more, but she was 77 pounds at the end of the process. And you'd look at her, 5'7", and think, there can't be anything in there, right? How could there be anything in there? Look how skinny she is. She began refeeding for more than 6 months, eating an average of 3 meals a day. She had an average of 10 bowel movements every day for more than 6 months. Okay, so I can say something to all of you guys without pissing you off, I hope, because most people can't get away with it, okay? If you've been eating conventionally most of your life, you are full of shit. Okay, that's what happens. And it's not coming out of your body until you fast long enough and properly. You can do all the salt flushes you want. Enemas and colonics, are they going to help? What do you think?
That's a good question.
There's a valve that separates the large and small intestine. You put water in the back door, it's not going to go past the ileocecal valve. All the old material's on the other side of that valve, in the small intestine. Now, don't get me wrong, enemas and colonics do flush out material. They'll flush out old material, the material that's not your lifetime old, but old that's, that might have been there for 2, 3, 4 weeks, that should have left the body in 8 to 12 hours, but instead it's taken much longer than that because your system's not efficient. It's going to eliminate some of that stuff. Have you heard of your gut biome? Anyone know what the gut biome is? The microbiome? What is that?
Bacteria.
It's bacteria. It's 10 trillion bacteria, 3 pounds of bacteria. It's called the second brain, and it weighs as much as your first brain,
Our immune system.
which is 3 pounds. It has a lot to do with the body's immune function, okay? This gut biome. Flush a bunch of water in, and guess what happens? You're flushing out some of the bacteria that you need to survive and be healthy. Okay, you weaken the bowel, you alter the pH, and you reduce your body's ability to eliminate. You have poorer bowel function after enemas and colonics. Okay, here's what I've learned over the years. Every time we attempt to manipulate the body into creating a particular outcome, we create unintended negative side effects. Okay, we're much better off remembering that healing and detoxification are biological processes. What does that mean?
They happen naturally.
Who can cleanse or heal the body?
The body. The body. Yeah.
Let me tell you a funny story. I was in Dublin. I was in Dublin too. I was in Belfast, Ireland, teaching a full-day seminar. I've got a group of 50 or so people, and I said to the room, "There's only one thing on this planet that can heal your body." And a hopeful voice from the back of the room said, "You?" I said, "No, it's not me. It's your body. Only your body can heal your body." Okay, that's the only thing. So the way we get healthy is we get out of the body's way. We let it do what only the body can do, right? Because nothing else can heal you. What happens for most people is they're constantly in the way. If you're eating when the body needs to heal, it's not going to be able to heal. If you're being active, remember, what does the dog do? What was the dog's name?
Rest.
Reject.
Reject. What did reject do?
Kind of hide and be lethargic.
It just lay there. It didn't move. They don't do any. People say to me, I had this conversation like 3 times today. Okay, I'm gonna share with you about a program we've just unrolled. We just launched, and over the last 10 days, I've had 18 calls every day with people interested in this program. If I look a little tired, I am. Haven't had much sleep. 18 calls takes a lot of my time. 3 times today, I had a conversation with someone where I said to them, "Have you ever seen a dog get sick enough to refuse to eat?" And they'd say, "Yeah." Most people have seen that. What does it do? And they would say, most people say, sleeps all day. This may come as a shock. In English, we talk about oversleeping. People say, oh, I overslept. I slept too many hours. Impossible. There's a crazy thing that happens when your body gets all the sleep it needs. It wakes up. Okay, it can't keep sleeping when it has all the sleep it needs. The dog is the same. You can't sleep 24 hours unless you're in a coma, right? Which is different. Dog can't sleep 24 hours either, but you think it's sleeping because it lays there, not move. It may change position every once in a while, just as we do when we're asleep. It lays there with its eyes closed. Why? Why is that important? You know how, Steve, you're recording this, right? So there could be there's a video file, there could be an audio file. Which will take more memory, more space on the disk? Well, the video takes a lot more space. It's a lot more data. In the same way, when your eyes are open, you're taking in visual information as you are right now. Say some of the best visual information around, maybe. Cool. So you take in visual information, what happens? Up to 60% of your brain is lighting up with that incoming visual information. That's why, when you're tired, what do you instinctively do? Close your eyes. We turn off all those circuits we don't need, and we're resting because your brain uses about 35% of your body's energy. Okay, so we turn those circuits off, we can rest much more. That's what every other species does. That's what we want to do.
May the bliss be with you.
Click the video for part 2 to learn more about the benefits of fasting.